Who will be the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans? Yes, it is only week 4 and Brian Callahan is still employed. However, Justin, it's never too early to have this conversation because I think the writing is on the wall. The Titans will have a new head coach in 2026. So we're going to run through a bunch. We are casting a wide net today. We are going to run through a bunch of possible candidates that we should all get to know at least a little bit here over the next few months. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. Justin, yesterday we did a long conversation about, is it time to fire Brian Callahan? And we both determined that yes, it is time to fire Brian Callahan. So what's the next step after you fire Brian Callahan? Well, you put an interim head coach in. We talked interim options yesterday. The next step after that is you hire a new head coach, and we start this whole thing all over again. Feels like it happens way too often for the Titans, at least lately. But that's where the team is at, and that's what will be the next step. So we're going to just get way ahead of it today on this podcast and talk about potential options. How's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you. And it's crazy that you say this is what it's become, because for a while under Amy Adams-Strunk, it wasn't, right? Like Mike Vrabel and John Robinson were here for a pretty long time by comparison purposes. But Rand Carthon's a mistake. Brian Callahan's a mistake. You have the power struggle or whatever it was with Mike Vrabel. That's how you end up kind of opening this revolving door. So I put together a list of coaching candidates that I believe could be on the Titans' radar if and when they fire Brian Callahan. And listen, I broke this up into 3 sections. I did a lot of legwork on this. I did potential popular league-wide candidates who I think are going to be the buzzy names that everyone with an opening is going to have interest in. Then I also looked a little at Mike Borgonzi's history and Chad Brinker's history and came up with a couple of names that have ties to them. Now, full disclosure, I have seen some recommendations, some comments on the podcast that I'm not going to be going into. Like, I tried to keep this as realistic as possible. If I end up with egg on my face, so be it. Someone mentioned Eddie George. I'm like, Eddie George is like just starting a pretty low-level college coaching career. Like, he's at Bowling Green right now. Eddie George has a long way to go before he could even seriously be considered an NFL coaching candidate. I saw John Gruden. Like, look, I don't hate John Gruden. I think he's smart offensively, but I don't consider him a serious candidate. With everything that happened between him and the NFL, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You seem to disagree based on the face you're making. I don't have John Gruden on my list because I don't think that's the path that Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi are going to be willing to go down. So, spoiler alert, those 2 names, Eddie George and John Gruden, are not. I saw someone, I think they were kidding. Taylor Lewan, make Taylor Lewan interim head coach. One up the Colts when they made Jeff Saturday. Taylor Lewan is not on this list. Neither is Will Compton. So none of the Bussin' with the Boys crew made this list. But I'm going to start off with the potential league-wide candidates. But before I do that, I'm going to throw it to you because you threw your hand up.
Yeah, so real quick, I just want to say, I do think John Gruden is like a serious candidate to make a return to the NFL within the next 2 to 3 cycles. I think that very much could happen. There's a lot of, like, he's been around the game. There's some momentum for that. I don't know that I don't know that it will happen, but I don't think that's a completely far-fetched name. And the second thing, I just wanted to make a point real quick about Callahan because I've seen this comment a few places. I've seen it under our videos. I've seen tweets about it, that people are there are some Titans fans who will excuse what Brian Callahan's tenure has been because the team is not good. And I think 2 things can be true at the same time here. You can have a talent deficiency at multiple spots on your roster that make it difficult to compete on a week-to-week basis. And you can also have a head coach who's way in over his head, who's not getting the most out of the talent that he does have, who every player seems to be regressing under, especially at the quarterback position. When you look at what Will Levis was under Vrabel and under Callahan, when you just look at Cam Ward's first 3 games, I mean, I wouldn't say he's getting worse every game, but I wouldn't say he's like getting better every game.
Too small of a sample size to talk about Cam Ward and Brian Callahan, but the rest of the roster, I agree. And I don't think this roster is good, but I also don't necessarily think it's 3-17 bad. Like when he's 3-17 in 20 games, again, Ken Wisenhunt territory. Who's the Antonio Andrews at running back? Who's the Doriel Green Beckham? Like that's what Ken Wisenhunt. Who's the Will Svedek right now on the offense? Who's the Jeremiah Patausi? Like they're just getting they're 3-17. It's got to be better than that. For the worst yard differential in the league, the worst point differential in the league. I don't think this roster should be worse than the NFL bad right now.
That's what I was going to say. Worst point differential, worst yardage differential. Like they are not the worst team in the NFL. That's on paper, and they are, but they are the worst team in the NFL, and that's where the coaching comes in. So yeah, they have a talent deficiency. Yeah, Brian Callahan hasn't been set up great, but we're not asking Brian Callahan to coach this team to the playoffs. We're asking him to show a semblance of competency, that he understands what he's doing and that he's not in over his head. And get
a field goal off on time. Challenge the catch rule when you're supposed to know it. Like it's just the basic things are not being done.
Right. So that's why this conversation has really ramped up this week. And again, it's only a matter of time before Callahan is dismissed as the head coach. It may not be this week. It may not be in 5 weeks. It may not be till January, but it will happen. So with that said, Justin, let's get to the list. Real quick word from Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. You can join the Sinkers In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Completely free to join. Just go to sinkersbeverages.com or check the link in this podcast description. And they're also available on Uber Eats. Super convenient way to get anything you need from Sinkers Beverages. And one last note, comment, like, subscribe on the video. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, drop your comments below, subscribe to the channel, share the podcast with a friend. These are tough times for Titans fans, but we can all come together on different content platforms, various content creators. We can all come together and just sort of commiserate about our experience as Titans fans. And that's what we're doing today. So send this link to somebody if you enjoy the show. Justin, let's start with the list of guys that are going to be hot commodities. These are the guys that are going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 interviews come January. And, teams in the playoffs are going to be like, oh, can we get this guy an interview, or are we going to have to wait till they get to the Super Bowl? Or whatever? This is those kind of guys, right? Let's get to that list.
Yeah, I got a list of 7 names on this section where I did potential popular league-wide candidates, and there might be more than that, right? We'll see. But 4 of them especially strike me as guys that I am very confident will get interviews by teams with openings in January. The first 4 that I think are painfully obvious are Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, and Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I'm going to kind of run through rapid fire. Cliff Kingsbury and Brian Flores are the retreads of that group, right? I think both of them come with a fair bit of concerns. Like Cliff's tenure in Arizona was not good. That team consistently got worse as the years went by, and also as the seasons went by, right? They routinely collapsed down the stretch, long losing streaks at the end of it. He never struck me as a strong leader, culture type of guy. He was hired, similarly to Brian Callahan, for his offensive-minded prowess, if you will. And certainly he was not as bad as Brian Callahan, right? He's a lot better than him, but left a lot to be desired in Arizona. I think he's rehabilitated his reputation in Washington, especially, working with Jaden Daniels, offensive rookie of the year, kind of spearheading that young quarterback's rookie season. He certainly rehabilitated his reputation enough where he is going to garner interest around the league. Now, I'm a little skeptical on him, but I expect him to be a strong candidate in many spots. Similar story with Brian Flores, a little bit different in the sense where it was, a lot of concerning reports came out of Brian Flores' tenure, right? Like rumors of a toxic relationship with both his players and his assistant coaches in Miami. He went through like 3 offensive coordinators, I think in 2 years at one point, because he had co-offensive coordinators at one point and fired them both. Then he had another one who he fired. Now, then there was the whole, lawsuit against the league that I think hurt his chances to get back. But a strong 2-year resume as the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, I do think is going to be enough to get him back in the conversation. Now, I'm skeptical about him as well because of how his tenure went in Miami. But those first two retreads kind of strike me as popular league-wide candidates. I'll throw it back to you before I get into the other two.
Yeah, those two guys are definitely going to get interviews. I think they both have questions to answer. Cliff Kingsbury has done phenomenal work with Jaden Daniels, but then you have to wonder, like, how many coaches would do phenomenal work with Jaden Daniels, supremely talented guy that also helps your run game. That's not to take anything away from Cliff. There are still some weird, concerning things he does, like he only aligns Terry McLaurin on the left side of the field for some reason. He doesn't move his receivers around. He gets creative in other ways, but he doesn't get creative with his wide receiver alignments. He has been a good offensive coach, and on the thing about his teams failing down the stretch, that is looking more and more like a Kyler Murray problem than a Cliff Kingsbury problem as of the years since Cliff left Arizona. And they didn't fade down the stretch in Washington last year as they go to, obviously, the NFC Championship game. Now, Dan Quinn is like a stabilizing presence there.
They got a great leader in Dan Quinn. Very different.
And I'm not sure if Cliff Kingsbury is that guy. So I have a lot of concerns about Cliff. I think there's exciting elements that you could point to and like, look, he's a huge fan of VR, working with VR with Jaden Daniels. I'm all in on that for Cam Ward, but I think I'd have more concerns than excitement with Cliff. Flores, somewhat the same story. Like, I think Flores's defensive schemes are out of this world brilliant. I think he does a better job than any coordinator in the NFL at confusing opposing quarterbacks and having his team, his secondary players especially, like playing on a string, just the way they communicate and stuff. But there are some pretty concerning rumors about his time that you and I have heard behind closed doors, even about just the way, like you said, the way he treats people in the building. And I know Tua and him definitely didn't get along. And no matter what you think about Tua's abilities, like, your primary job as the head coach is to make sure your quarterback can play at a high level, because your team is nothing without that player functioning at a high level. And so there's some concerning stuff there too. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if both those guys get interviews in Tennessee, at least come in and explain away, like give them a chance to explain those concerns.
Absolutely. Now, the other two candidates that I briefly mentioned, I think, bold prediction, are going to be the two most popular candidates in the entire NFL come January, February. That is Joe Brady of the Buffalo Bills and Jesse Minter of the Los Angeles Chargers. Two very different people, right? Brady, an offensive-minded guy, Minter, a defensive-minded guy. I get why everyone's going to be all over Brady. I mean, that Buffalo Bills offense is cooking right now. Cooking. Firing on all cylinders, and it was last year too. Now, I land somewhere down the middle here on Joe Brady, because a lot of people are going to say, well, how hard is it to coordinate an offense with Josh Allen at quarterback? Maybe it's not that hard, but people are forgetting. After they lost Brian Dable, who did a great job as well, they kind of struggled to replace him. Like, they hired Ken Dorsey at first. That didn't go so well. Like, Joe Brady, I think, was promoted mid-season, right? Because he was like the quarterback's coach, I believe. They promoted him mid-season after firing Ken Dorsey. There's a reason they fired Ken Dorsey. Joe Brady came in and certainly has that offense just cooking. My concern with Joe Brady is, yes, he's looked really good with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow as his quarterbacks when he was at LSU. When he went to Carolina and had some quarterback play issues, it got really bad in Carolina for Joe Brady. Now, maybe he comes here in Cam Ward. He's phenomenal because we're very confident in Cam Ward. But I do have some questions about Joe Brady, and I think he's going to be the most popular candidate in the entire NFL. I'm not sure I feel that strongly about him. The other one, quickly, before I throw it back to you, Jesse Minter, totally different. A lot of people are going to, I think, roll their eyes at the thought of hiring a defensive-minded head coach when you've got Cam Ward at quarterback. I'm really intrigued by Jesse Minter. I'm really intrigued by anyone, who has got a strong enough personality to work with the Harbaughs and look as good as he's looked, and to run a tight-knit, a tough, say what you want about Michigan, national championship, tough, hard-nosed pro. Same reason I liked Mike Macdonald last year, the success he had with the Harbaughs, success he had at Michigan. Mike Macdonald went 10-7 in his first year at Seattle. Strong. I see Jesse Minter as probably a very similar candidate. Strong, tough culture guy, locker room guy. I'm really intrigued by Jesse Minter, and the Chargers are, 3-0? They are absolutely cruising right now, and I think Jesse Minter will be an NFL head coach next year. And if he's got a good plan at offensive coordinator, that's the caveat with these defensive-minded guys. You want to make sure you're supporting Cam Ward. If he's got a good plan there, I'd be incredibly interested. I like Jesse Minter more than I like Joe Brady. That may not be a popular thing to say, but I do.
I agree with you, actually. So my concerns about Joe Brady are the same as yours. Like, work with a bad quarterback and make them look a little better than they actually are for once. Anyone who gets fired by the Carolina Panthers is a concern. Now, granted, like that was Matt Rule's tenure, which was obviously tumultuous for many
Terrible
reasons.
ownership.
Yeah, but still, like, don't get fired from Carolina. Like, that's a concern. Obviously, Joe Brady is a smart, offensive-minded guy. It's the same like concerns I have right now with Brian Callahan. Obviously, when Callahan was hired, and we also shouldn't like rewrite history. When Callahan was hired, he was a hot name.
Absolutely.
I think even Carolina might have been the team that was like trying to take him from the basically wanted to hire him, and the Titans offered him before he could even go interview with them. Was it Carolina? I think it was Carolina. Maybe not.
I believe it was Carolina.
So like he was a hot name at the time, and all these guys are going to be hot names at the time. Whoever the Titans hire might be a hot name at the time. I'm a little concerned about like, can you lead a culture, instill a culture, lead that culture, and get these guys playing? Like the Titans really need a professional head coach. They need somebody who at least knows how to do the job. Whereas they just had somebody who did not know how to. Like Brian Callahan does not fully grasp everything that it takes to coach a team well. So like a Mike Vrabel type, who say what you want about Mike Vrabel, the tenure ended poorly. Like that felt like a professionally run. Mike Mularkey, same thing. Like, the Titans' ceiling may not have been Super Bowl, but he knew at least how to like run an organization. And that's what the Titans need right now. So somebody like Joe Brady scares me. Not that Joe Brady doesn't know how to run an organization, and maybe he'll be a great head coach, but like, I don't know, just the experience that he does have.
We're shell-shocked a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the inherent risk. And the ugly truth to most of these guys is you don't know what you don't know, right? Like no one wants to talk about the other side of it. Like when Brian Callahan was hired, very few people probably said, well, he's never done this before. This might go terribly, right? Like sure, we all acknowledge that, but you tend to focus on the exciting aspect, the positive side of it, where a guy and look, we also can't course correct too much and say, well, like Joe Brady might be great at it.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know. And I'm a lot more confident that Jesse Minter is going to be good at it because of where he comes from and who he's worked with, right? Like you got to be tough to survive a Harbaugh room, both at Michigan and LA. And I think I get Mike McDonald vibes from Jesse Minter. So
I do too. And his defenses are incredible. And they like the one he's running right now in LA. It's kind of a little bit like philosophically similar to Denard Wilson's, where it's like pressure is coming from somewhere, but you don't know where. I watched the Chargers Broncos game, and there are guys running free through the line of scrimmage against the Broncos, who are like one of the best teams in the NFL at pass protection and avoiding sacks in general. And they have Bo Nix constantly under duress in that game. Jesse Minter, I think you're wrong when you say people aren't going to be excited about this. I think Jesse Minter is going to be the number one by January, the number one fan wanted candidate that anyone could possibly get. And I think Titans fans will be on board too. I think every Titans fan will say, I know he's a defensive minded head coach, but I kind of really like Jesse Minter. Like, I think that's where this thing's headed.
I only went with Joe Brady because the obvious, Bills offense, Josh Allen. Bills could win the Super Bowl this year. I firmly believe that. And if they do, then Joe Brady's going to be, the guy. The other three names I have on this list, I think have a chance to be potential popular league-wide candidates, but I'm not quite confident enough in September to put them in the Joe Brady, Jesse Minter bucket just yet. One of them I don't have a ton of confidence in, but I couldn't keep myself to leave him off the list, is Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. Why do I think he doesn't belong maybe, or, in the same category, rubbing elbows with Joe Brady? Well, he's 59 and he hasn't been an NFL head coach, right? Like this guy's been a position coach, was a head coach in college for a little bit at a smaller program, but what he's doing in Baltimore, I don't want to spend too much time. We're going to get long-winded here if we're spending a ton of time on Todd Monken, because I don't know that he's going to be that popular. But the offense he's running in Baltimore, and I disagree with you if you're looking at the screen right now and saying, well, they've got Lamar Jackson, it's easy to. Look, you're blessed to have an athlete like Lamar Jackson at your disposal, but I think, you give Todd Monken credit for being willing to mold the offense to the skill set a little bit, right? Like, or to help mold it to the skill set. I think there's a lot of NFL coordinators that would have screwed up Lamar Jackson, believe it or not, right? Like, Remember, I mean, he went 30th overall. He's a running back. Like, there are all these questions about Lamar Jackson. I give Todd Monken a lot of credit for the way that Baltimore's running that operation down there. So I think he belongs on this list. The other two guys, the reason I think they're going to get some interest, but maybe aren't in the Joe Brady bucket, but their teams are playing really well. And when your teams play well, you tend to get interest around the league as a coordinator. And they come from popular places. I've got Chris Shula. I mean, the last name alone and the family history. He's the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams right now. Like, anything Sean McVay touches gets an interview, especially when your last name is Shula and you're a defensive coordinator for a really good football team. So I think Shula might be a little early, doesn't have a ton of NFL experience under the belt, but I think he's going to get some experience. The other one who's really interesting to me, and he could almost fall in two buckets, is Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. This Packers defense is elite. It's probably going to finish top 3 in the NFL. I think they're going to go to the NFC Championship game at minimum. Like, I think the Packers are going to do outstanding this year. They've obviously got an offensive-minded head coach in Matt LaFleur who calls the plays. So the defensive coordinator really has free reign almost on the defensive side of the ball. Jeff Hafley, I think, is going to be a more popular candidate than people realize. And when I say I almost put him in two buckets, I put him in the league-wide bucket. He was the head coach for Boston College from 2020 to 2023. I think he did a pretty good job at that program. Mike Borgonzi got his start at Boston College in 2007, I think it was. Obviously, they didn't cross paths, but I'm pretty sure Mike Borgonzi knows who the head coach at one of his alma maters it was from 2020 to 2023, dragged that program, in my opinion, I don't want to say out of the mud, but I think highly of what Jeff Hafley did at Boston College. And I have no doubt that Mike Borgonzi thinks the same. And then when Hafley now gets to Green Bay and is going to do the job that he's going to do this year, I think Jeff Hafley will be on the Titans short list at some point.
The fact that he has been a head coach and built a program and started not good and built that program to the point where Green Bay called and said, you want to come up a league. You want to come up to the big leagues and run the defense here and see how Matt LaFleur runs an organization. I think Jeff Hafley is definitely an under the radar candidate that's going to get some buzz. Todd Monken is a guy that definitely interests me. I understand what you're saying, like being 59 and not having ever been a head coach, like why now? But that's happened to some of the greats, like some guys that didn't get that final bump up until later in the career. It's also been a Peter Principle thing where those guys then fail and they don't get another chance to be a head coach. But I think those are all fine names. I think they're definitely sort of a tier below the other four that we discussed in terms of what the interest and popularity level will be come January. Why don't we go to, since you started it already, why don't we go to the Borgonzi connections?
Yeah, that was going to be my sort of segue as well. There's a lot of them, actually. When I was trying to split this up, there's a lot more Borgonzi connections than Brinker connections, but we're going to run through a couple of them really quickly because I don't think they're serious at all. Two that I would say are not serious, in my opinion, or I hope aren't that serious. Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who had one of the worst tenors you'll ever see when he was the head coach of the St. Louis Rams. I mean, he won one game, I think, his first year, got a lot better his second year, then won 2 games his third year and got fired. Like, I think he's a career defensive coordinator. I don't think anyone is giving Steve Spags another shot, but there's the Mike Borgonzi connection. The other one is obviously the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs right now, Matt Nagy, who would be a retread, had that tenor in Chicago, which I'll be honest with you, I think has aged better than we judged it in the moment because now we know what we know about Mitch Trubisky, and the Bears are such a disaster organizationally that maybe the Nagy era wasn't as bad as we think it was. But
Didn't
it
he go
still
12?
wouldn't fill me with a whole lot of butterflies if they hired Matt Nagy.
Didn't he go 12-4 his first year with Chicago?
I think he won Coach of the Year at one point.
He did win Coach of the Year, but I'm pretty sure they won 12 games. Like it was a dominating year, and now that was like his first year, and it was the roster of the previous regime. But still, I mean, yes,
he did go 12-4 his first year. You're correct, and then he went 8-8 follow-up years. Like not great, but shit, I'd settle for 8-8 right now. No, absolutely. And look, the fact that he went 12-4, I have no confidence that Brian Callahan is ever capable of going 12-4, not even accidentally. So to me, The fact that Nagy went 12-4, there's some semblance of competency there. But no, it wouldn't excite me by any stretch of the imagination. The other one that I put on here that's got a Mike Borgonzi connection that I don't think is likely, but I couldn't in good faith not mention it, is Doug Peterson. Because Doug Peterson obviously, had a good run in Philadelphia, learned under Andy Reid in Kansas City. Mike Borgonzi was there for all of that. But the fact that, he got a second run in Jacksonville that didn't end well, some guys... Sometimes, didn't Mike Mularkey, was on his third chance when he came to Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Guys do get third chances. I don't know that Doug Peterson's second tenor went well enough to consider a third chance. So I'm going to breeze past Doug Peterson. I got three more names on this list that I do think are worth mentioning, that I think are certainly likelier than Spags and Doug Peterson. I don't want to say likelier than Nagy, because I think Nagy might be likelier than I'd like to admit. So maybe I'd put these next names on that same pedestal, if you will. Mike Kafka from who's with the New York Giants right now. Brian Daboll. I forgot that Mike Kafka cut his teeth in Kansas City under Andy Reid and Mike Borgonzi. Now he's in New York with Brian Daboll. The reason I mention him, and you might be saying, absolutely not. The reason I think he warrants a mention is he's got some interest around the league before. I think in back-to-back off seasons now, right? 2 years in a row, he's been interviewed, at least initially, and had some interest. So the fact that he's already on the league's radar, and then you factor in he spent time with Mike Borgonzi in Kansas City, there's no way Mike Kafka's not on a short list at least, right? If the Titans have to compile a list of 20 candidates, 25 candidates, Mike Kafka is absolutely on that list.
Mike Kafka strikes me. This is anti-logic. This is I can't even explain where this comes from.
I know what you're going to say.
Mike Kafka strikes me as the guy that would be the random guy that's somewhat overlooked. You hear your teams interviewing him and you're like, really, this guy, what has he done? And that he goes on to be the best hire of the cycle because he feels like the CEO type of guy who comes in, he hires an offensive coordinator, he hires a defensive coordinator,
he also played quarterback in the NFL. Don't forget that.
Did.
So Kevin O'Connell vibes, maybe. He's probably a really smart, anyone who played quarterback is, unless you're just relying on athletic ability, which he was not. Right? Probably a pretty smart guy as a quarterback, at least X's and O's wise.
This would be the type of hire that gives me a ton of irrational is the word. I have no rationale for why I feel this way. He just seems like that type of guy where it's he gets a little laughed at behind closed doors amongst fans, not
the first press conference goes poorly. There's some stupid awkwardness.
But then it turns out this guy knows how to lead a team and he puts the right people in position to go win football. I just kind of have a weird feeling that Mike Kafka is going to make a good head coach. And how many years in a row has he popped up somewhere for an interview?
At least 2, maybe 3, but at least 2. So that's why we had to mention him on this list. And I'll be honest with you, I like him better than, Peterson or Spags, right? For example. Same. I might put him on the same line of Nagy where I'm I'm skeptical. But I know you're putting him above Nagy, which is fine.
I don't know what it is. I just feel like Mike Kafka is going to be a good head coach. There's something about him.
The other 2 names on this list, I don't even know that they belong as Borgonzi candidates, but the first one is really interesting to me. And if I get this right, you're going to cut this clip up 8 months from now, and I'm going to tweet it, and I'm going to look so smart. Because I don't think anyone's really talking about him. But his name has come up to me, not in relation to the Titans, just as an up-and-coming coaching candidate. He's gotten a little bit of interest. I don't think anyone's really talking about him outside of league circles, but he has been mentioned to me by people who work in the NFL, is Drew Petzing, the current offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. I like that he's the offensive coordinator for a defensive-minded head coach in Jonathan Gannon. So obviously he is running the show there. He's calling plays, all that good stuff. I think Arizona is trending upwards, right? They're 2-1. We'll see how they end, but I do think they're going to be better this year than they've been in recent years. That improvement is going to lead to some interest for the coordinators, and the fact that Drew Petzing runs the show there offensively, I do think is going to get him some interest. The Borgonzi connection, Justin, he went to Boston College, cut his teeth there. He didn't cross paths with Mike Borgonzi, but they missed each other by a year. 1 year. I imagine Mike Borgonzi had strong ties to that program still a year before, a year later, he left, whatever. Drew Petzing comes in there, cuts his teeth there, goes on to work for some really good people around the league, is now the coordinator for the Cardinals. I like, call me nuts. I'd be surprised if Drew Petzing doesn't get an interview in Tennessee if and when, they have an opening in there and they're assuming they don't run a sham search. The other name on this list that has a loose connection to Mike Borgonzi, but I wanted to put him on here, is Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, Coach Patullo, this is super interesting to me. Tennessee Titans assistant wide receiver coach in 2014. I would have never remembered or guessed that.
Me neither.
When I was looking into his history. He was in Tennessee, assistant receiver coach. He goes to Kansas City, spends 2 years in Kansas City, 07, 08. But he leaves before Borgonzi arrives in 09. So maybe he's not the Borgonzi connection list, but all these connections strike me as interesting. Then he goes to Philadelphia in 21-22, where he works with Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. That might mean nothing because Denard Wilson's not going to decide who Titans hire to be the next head coach. The only reason I noted it is like, hey, if Kevin Patullo got the job in Tennessee, there's potential that maybe he'd keep Denard Wilson on. I'll be honest with you. I like Denard Wilson. I think he's dealing with a talent deficiency, but he's not good enough where I'm like, the Titans have to keep Denard Wilson as their next defense. No, I feel that way about John Bones Fossil at special teams coordinator. Denard Wilson's not that has not reached that level for me yet. The other reason I put Kevin Patullo on this list, and I'm going to throw it to you because I'm out of breath. If the Eagles go back-to-back, or like they're 3-0, they're elite, you don't think Kevin Patullo is going to get interest as the offensive coordinator for the back-to-back Super Bowl winning like Kevin Patullo is going to get interest. And I thought the fact that he almost sort of crossed paths with Borgonzi, crossed paths with Denard Wilson, and was already here in Tennessee, loosely. But he was here in 2014. I had to put him on this list.
I would be upset if they hired Kevin Patullo.
Me too, probably.
Like, he is running a version of Nick Sirianni's offense. Yes. Sirianni has a major hand in what that looks like. It's not quite on the level of Brian Callahan in Cincinnati with Zach Taylor, but it's fairly close to it. He's not like a Drew Petzing who's running the show on that side of the ball. And also, Eagles fans hate their offense this year. Like, they hate it. They finally threw the ball for the first time this season. Jalen Hurts attempted his first pass of the season in the second half against the Rams. That's a joke. Obviously, Jalen Hurts had passed the ball. But he did throw his first passing touchdown of the season against the Rams because they refused to throw the ball. They refused to open it up. Like, that's the opposite of what we want with Cam Ward in Nashville. Like, so even just that basic philosophically, I'm at a disagreement. Now, I don't know a whole lot more about like what he stands for, but based on what's happening in Philly, I would be scared if that's who they hired.
So I'm so glad we're doing this episode right now because this isn't going to, don't breaking news, but we are going to get to talk about this on this episode, I think, and this is essentially live. Titans head coach Brian Callahan will speak at 11 a.m. Central before the coordinators speak. All the Titans beats are pointing at the fact that this is not normal. He does not talk on Tuesdays before the coordinators do. I think we're getting something here. My prediction is going to be that he's going to announce that he has handed play calling over to somebody else. And if so, that is big news in my opinion. And we will touch on it on this episode. So if you're still around, I hope you are. I'm going to end this discussion with the Chad Brinker connection candidates. And I'll be honest with you, this list is a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Why? They had one head coach for so long, in Green Bay. And yes, he's on this list. And when you looked at who his coordinators were, they were like Dom Capers and Mike Pettin. Like, there weren't a whole lot of guys that would be like, I looked at the Packers coaching staff for like 12 consecutive years. And I came away with way fewer names than I thought. I'm like, someone was quality control who's done really good since then. No, not really. This list is short. And yes, it starts with Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, who was there for a very long time and then got a second opportunity with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think you're about to turn off this podcast because I don't think Mike McCarthy is going to be popular with this list, our viewership, listenership, whatever the hell you call it. I would not be mad at Mike McCarthy at all. In Green Bay, he went 100
audience.
Sorry? For the audience. I know I said viewership, listenership. I said everything but the right word. Mike McCarthy went 125 and 77 in Green Bay. He won a Super Bowl in 2010, okay? Oh, he goes to Dallas, okay, second opportunity. Which kind of guys get third opportunities? The kind of guy who went 12 and 5 3 straight years, which is what he did in Dallas from 2021 to 2023. Yes, they lost in either the wild card game or the divisional game every year, but that's a Dallas Cowboys Dak Prescott thing a little bit, in my opinion. I'm going to keep it short. I do not hate Mike McCarthy as a candidate. They would run a professional operation, number one. The way I see Mike McCarthy is Mike Mularkey, but better. I think he is absolutely better than Mike Mularkey. He would come in, run a professional show. I think he'd be good for Cam Ward. I don't think he'd be bad. He was good for Aaron Rodgers. He was pretty good for Dak Prescott for a couple years. Like, I think he'd be good for Cam Ward. You'd have stability because no matter who the offensive coordinator is, it's Mike McCarthy running the show. And we know that he can call plays and oversee an operation at the same time because he did it at a fairly high level for a very long time. I don't hate Mike McCarthy. I think he's going to be a strong candidate for the Titans when they have an opening.
I am 100% with you. I think we probably have a lot of people in the audience. I was going to say listeners, but I decided to pivot to people in the audience last second. Rolling their eyes at this because I think you're right. Like this is one that like the fan base would be outraged. What? We're hiring Mike McCarthy? Are we we just want to be mediocre. The Titans always want to be mediocre. That's all we want. It's like, no, I think this would be the exact perfect hire that they need. Honestly, like without knowing more about any of these other candidates, is this crazy to say? Mike McCarthy would be my number one option right now today. Obviously, there's like, we'll see what happens. Right now today, Mike McCarthy, look, first of all, his name is Mike. Titans always have success when they hire a Mike. Like we got to be real about that. Secondly, you nailed it with the Mularkey comparison. The Titans don't need to go find the next boy genius, wonder whiz, offensive guru, coming young up and comer. They need, like I said at the top of the show, they need a professional in the room. They need somebody who can run an organization at a competent baseline. Like we're looking for competency right now. And you said it too. He would run the organization like he would bring an air of professionalism and like, I know what the hell I'm doing ism to this team, which they greatly need right now. And just like Mike Mularkey, when he was hired, like you're taking over a really bad team, taking a team from 2 and whatever, 3 and whatever to 8 and 9, 9 and 8, 10 and 7. That's sort of the easier part. And really all you need for that is a guy that can do it, that has established a culture before, can call a good offense, can put the right defensive coordinator in place, which he did. Dan Quinn went off and got a head coaching job, remember? So that would be a huge thing for this Titans team. And then if he hits a ceiling at some point where he can't get out of the divisional round, like what happened in Dallas, then you look for the guy that can take you to the next level. But the Titans are not looking to get to that next level right now. They're looking to get out of the basement gutter of the league. And for that reason, I think Mike McCarthy would be an excellent choice to get them out of that, get them to like a winning, respectable status, and let him see. Maybe with Cam Ward, just like he did with Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, I don't know if anyone of you guys watched Kurt Benkert break down Cam Ward. Like, Kurt's number one player comp for Cam Ward is Aaron Rodgers. And like a lot of people have compared him to Patrick Mahomes and other people, but
I also think that we have to acknowledge the possibility, like we're doing this for fun, but this is also somewhat predictive. That's why I made a list of candidates with connections. I think we also have to acknowledge the possibility that the Brian Callahan failure is so scary that they are going to pivot to someone who's a retread because you don't know what you don't know. Well, you do know Mike McCarthy. You do know he can run a professional program, right? So I think there's a good chance that the sort of PTSD of Brian Callahan.
Oh, breaking news. Wow. We got to give our buddy Justin Melo a round of applause. Bo Hardigree will call plays for the Tennessee Titans going forward. He announced it 40 seconds ago. As of this recording, obviously by the time you hear this podcast, he will have announced it like 5 or 6 or more hours ago. But this is the right move. I mean, this is Two things. Number one, you said this yesterday. This is the move you make when you have to scapegoat somebody or something or whatever, like, or yourself. Right now, he's scapegoating himself as the play caller, and he's giving those duties to Bo Hardegree. This is the thing you do before you get fired. So whatever, last ditch effort. We'll see if this helps. Number two, Bo Hardegree's the right choice. Bo Hardegree was the right choice, and I'm glad that that's the choice they made.
I nailed this. I wrote this in an article earlier this week. Everyone thought I was crazy. I said it wouldn't be Nick Holtz. Bo Hardegree's the better choice. He did it on an interim basis for the Las Vegas Raiders, had success doing it. He's a QB coach, works directly with Cam Ward. I like this decision. I do.
I don't know if this makes the Titans any better, but it makes me excited to watch them this weekend. Now, stiff test, your first game calling plays, you're going against this Houston pass rush. Like, good luck eliminating the pass rushers on the other side of the ball there, who are both like top 10 in pass rush win rate through week 3, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. So that's great. But this is interesting. We'll talk about this, tomorrow? Thursday? We'll talk about this more Thursday.
We'll talk about it more.
But this is cool. This is good. This is the right move for Brian Callahan. As much as I don't think it'd ultimately save him, it's the right move to make right now. And we've talked a lot about Mike McCarthy. We're both big on Mike McCarthy. Who else is on your Brinker list? And we'll close up this podcast.
I had the last name on the list before we got to that. It's current Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich. I'm going to keep this pretty short. You know, again, you can't typecast everyone. What are the concerns? Well, Brian Callahan, he doesn't call plays, right? He's an offensive coordinator who doesn't call plays. Matt LaFleur calls plays. So there's that. But he's worked under some good coaching staffs. He was in San Francisco with LaFleur like a long time ago. Comes to Green Bay, cross paths with Chad Brinker in Green Bay. I think Stenavich is probably working his way up. Again, I think Packers are going to have a great season. That's going to make both of their coordinators land on the radar. Considering Stenavich cross paths with Chad Brinker in Green Bay, I think he's a strong name to at least put on this list and mention.
Yeah, sorry, I'm doing research I'm still trying to figure out when Bo Hardegree exactly started calling plays because I'd love to get some stats compiled for what his offenses looked like. One thing that I just saw is that when he took over in Las Vegas, the first thing that happened was the play action rate skyrocketed. So that'll be interesting because we've been talking about how the Titans haven't been running enough play action. So interesting, very interesting. And yeah, I'm not even going to comment on Stenavich because I don't know anything about him. And honestly, sounds like another Brian Callahan. But all right, that'll do it for this one. That is a long list of coaching candidates we just gave you guys. There might be more emerging. And if any college coaches, Justin, emerge or come to mind for you, we can talk about those at a later date. This was pretty much an NFL focus, NFL coordinators and former NFL head coaches more so. We didn't really look at guys that could be making that jump from college. But that there could be some of those guys too. So it'll be interesting. Steve Sarkisian? I hope not. Hook him.
I'll say this quickly and about Brian Callahan. We could dog him all we want. This is the right decision for now because clearly, like I think about that second quarter sequence. Like he didn't mention it, but him calling the play, having to call the play if he's going for it, while also trying to make the decision to go for it or kick, no doubt has played a role in him kind of fumbling that situation and other situations like it. So this is an opportunity for him to ease his role, and all he's got to decide now is go for it or punt, and that it's a lot easier to kind of spit out that decision. So this is the right move, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go. That'll do it for this pod. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment below who your top choices are right now. Keep it to 3, more or fewer. Top choice or top choices for head coach consideration that you'd be looking at right now. And let us know in the comments. And remember to share this podcast with a friend. Tell them like, hey, you don't have to be sad about the Titans anymore. These guys are talking about how the future is bright because they're going to hire a new head coach one day. Here's some options. Send this video out. We appreciate all you guys. Thanks again to Sinkers Beverages as well. We will be back tomorrow. Still deciding what tomorrow's pod looks like. Are we going to do a behind enemy lines with this Titans team that nobody cares about watching anymore? Or are we going to talk about a fire sale, which players could fetch them something on the trade market? Who knows? Tune in tomorrow to find out. Make sure you're subscribed. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and Titan down.
A Broadway sports media production.